Oh my God, that's close.
Okay, good enough. Oh, who's calling now?
Your girlfriend?
Oh, Newport Beach, California. Not gonna pick that up. Okay, yes, so our Queen is still seriously grounded. This is an update to our previous video where we identified our Queen Range Rover 2015 here as a serious death threat.
As a death trap.
Just to enhance again what the problem is. Basically, the upper knuckle is breaking, as you can see on this crack here on the side, on ours. It's usually on the side where the bolt head is. And you can see that this edge is basically completely uneven. It looks distorted. All you got to do is look into your wheel arch. If it's uneven, check out the side. You may have to brush off some dirt or something to actually get a good view. And check both sides. And even if you don't see a crack, in our video we demonstrated if you use a crack detection spray, the crack will become visible even if you can't see it with your bare eyes. Okay.
Oh my God.
Holy cow, that's what we considered the good side. Is it?
You see here, there's a crack forming.
See, the crack is clearly colored red, even after like only 4 minutes.
Oh my God.
And bottom line is, we can't drive the vehicle because we basically got this case registered at the Department of Transportation in Germany as a huge safety hazard. It would be kind of stupid if I'm driving around with it on the Autobahn, then it cracks, I'm gonna run over a dump truck or something and crash in a few other vehicles. And then I say, well, yeah, you guys didn't call me back. And in our death trap video, some viewers identified that the tires on the Queen are huge. They identified it in a way where they said they don't fit the Queen. They're on there, so they do fit. Some other viewers said, well, they're not allowed on the Queen in regard to MOT and TÜV. Now we're getting a little closer, okay? These tires are indeed not listed by Range Rovers as a usable set of tires on the Queen. And there are no rubbing marks whatsoever. Also, the tires do not have rubbing marks. And in order to get into my parking garage at work, I actually put it in excess height. So they do not rub in excess height either. So here I am, that's the place I work. So the parking garage I'm going into is 1.85 meters height restricted, okay? Look at that, 1.85. So I'm really have to put the thing in excess height to get in here. And no working at my place if you have a coil sprung Discovery, okay? At least you couldn't park here. It's 285/45 R22. I went to the TÜV and I talked to him about it and I said, well, they are on there and the vehicle got TÜV. And they said, well, then you got lucky. They didn't check it.
Most importantly, that crack happens all over the world. So don't comment now, well, your tires are fault.
Well,
yes.
Let the desktop mechanics comment that. They will do it anyhow.
Yeah.
This LR Time guy ran a tire which is 10 millimeters too high. 10 millimeters too wide. And that caused the threat. I think they're going to make fools of themselves. So this is a ridiculously small deviation, okay? But in Germany, we go after ridiculous small deviations, and I will not be able to get TÜV with these tires. Thank you guys for letting us know that the 285/45 is too big for this rim, even though it fits perfectly and it looks awesome and it drives awesome. They're gonna come off. I told you guys before, we do not take a vehicle to a tire shop. Nobody other than me puts a Queen on a lift.
And to whomever I wrote, no, those tires fit and are legal. Christian made me do that.
The guy was from Romania who drove this vehicle, but it was registered in Berlin. And all he did, he put a tire on which is 10 millimeters too wide and 10 millimeters or 15 millimeters too high. That's it. And then he took his papers to the TÜV, not the vehicle.
No. So, and please don't comment, you still haven't gotten rid of your lock nut while Christian bought new nuts.
The lock nut thing will be discussed when we put the new tires on, okay? For you in 2 minutes, for us tomorrow afternoon.
Ah, nice.
Okay, can you see how they slightly stick out here? They do protect the rim a little bit, versus when I put now the 275s on, this is a little less. They don't stick out as nice.
And that is not my fault. We bought those marks. Yeah.
Well, actually, I think I did put this one in.
What did you do, Christian? That is like the worst scratch.
Yeah, I know. I show you what I did.
Oh my God.
I had it right here, okay? And I was getting ready to clean it, and I set it down, and it dropped on me.
And that's why he wants to refurbish those rims now.
And we just got the Queen that day. You may have asked me 3 times that day what happened, and I didn't tell you. I think that's where that scratch is coming from. I dropped it on.
Oh my God. Also, people comment that we put the rims on wrong. So, the new Continentals have a direction of rotation. These are brand new.
And see, it's going into the right direction,
yeah.
Mr. Desktop Mechanics.
Here's the old one. There is no direction of rotation and they are mounted correctly. Oh, he won't let me do that. I mean, there are enough scratches in the rim, so it doesn't matter if I put one on. And we will leave the lights, because that is character. You're gonna hurt your wrist again.
I think by the time we mount the new tires tomorrow, we'll have the new nuts, okay? I bought 4 of these replacements. Thank you for suggesting this, but we're not doing that because these security lock nuts are a risk to be damaged. We're doing that because we want to make it easy for potential old school thieves who want to steal those rims, like we explained in the last video. We're going to make their life miserable if there are security lock nuts on there, because modern thieves are just too stupid, at least over here in Germany. Maybe you got smarter thieves in your countries, but over here, they would be so stupid they forget to put a brick underneath, take the rim off, and the entire car falls on them. And it's not mounted wrong, okay? As a YouTuber, we are used to getting stupid comments and awesome comments. That's just part of our life. And in some cases, we address the stupid comments in our videos. And less often, we address the nice comments. So at that point, I want to mention, we got so much nice feedback on the video we made about the Queen being a death trap, okay? We had dozens of emails, comments, and messages over social media where you guys wrote that you checked out your vehicle and you actually found the crack. And you thanked us for it. You're very welcome. We're so happy. Even if we only found one vehicle which identified a crack, it's already good enough. But it was so many. There was such a great feedback also from people who already did this job and thanked us for pointing it out again and making everybody aware of it. Then there were also negative comments, okay? Some idiot out of Latvia said, well, this was already 999 years ago detected, okay? I don't think so, because Land Rover in Germany does not know about it.
Don't drop it.
Yeah, put it here carefully. And that's now where we can give you an update where we stand. The Department of Transportation has not reacted to our request, okay? But that's German bureaucracy, that's slow going. But it will be steady like the Titanic, like we said. And we hope there's no iceberg. Land Rover responded to me exactly 1 day too late. Instead of 5 working days, they took 6. That's pretty good. They contacted me. They told me in that first conversation, Mr. Moose, this case is not registered in Germany. That's why they didn't know about. They said they're going to do everything to get this taken care of. And they're going to get this recall verified with their headquarters. And that's the process where they're in right now. Land Rover Germany has no technical details on this recall, and they have to get this set up. But they assured me that this will be taken care of, and they're gonna arrange an appointment with a workshop. Another 4 days later, a workshop called me, the biggest and most local one to us, and they arranged with me a repair date. This repair date is 5 weeks from now, so the Queen is now grounded for 5 more weeks. And this is a completely new aspect to me and to Vera. So far, when we did all our work at home and we're all independent and we're very happy about it and we make YouTube videos, we always had only the money aspect in focus. So when you guys were complaining how expensive everything is to fix a Land Rover, I thought, yeah, it's all expensive and it sucks, but we don't have that problem. We do everything ourselves. But you guys also complained in the past how slow sometimes the repairs are at Land Rover and how long it takes to get an appointment in a shop. So this is new to me. I did not expect that. I thought, okay, I'm going to give it there next Monday and then it's done and I can drive it in a week and a half. Now I'm looking at 5 weeks plus the repair time and I have to live with it. But on the other hand, I have to say, if there is some truth to what Land Rover said, that they have to set up this recall in Germany to know what parts are required, to have an estimate on how many parts, to inform the shops, to create German paperwork, to get the bureaucracy done, and so on. That's a lot of work. I work in the automotive industry. I know this takes time. And under that aspect, the 5 weeks for me being the first one who reported this is actually excellent. And they have my full support.
And did you tell them that car will not be driven?
No.
Don't drive the car.
Nobody so far has told us that we're not supposed to drive the car. I have a second vehicle. It's right there, okay? I got Prince Mallcrawl. I can drive around with that vehicle. It's not that big of a penalty for a Queen driver.
I want to take a Defender for that time.
I'm happy that Land Rover responded, okay?
Me too.
Now I need a small break.
Well, you still have 2 wheels to get off.
I also want to point out that when we bought this vehicle, that some viewers wrote us that there is a risk of front knuckles breaking. But back at that time, I was just overwhelmed with a new vehicle like a Queen and all the work I had to do to fix the intake. So I neglected this. So these have a marking which is called outside. So that means all important here is that this is facing away from the vehicle, okay? Yet.
Oh my God, what is that? Are we losing oil?
So I'm gonna clean up the rims and prep them for the tire shop that they don't get any dirty hands and they don't glue me the balancing weights onto the dirt. One last thing I want to address now before we continue tomorrow is that we have to violate our primary rule of our channel, which is we never ever take a vehicle to Land Rover for repair. In the context of a safety recall, which we initiated, I have to take the vehicle to Land Rover. I cannot make this big fuss about it and then tell them, oh no, you're not getting to work on my Queen. And I promise that only this safety recall will be carried out by Land Rover on this vehicle. Everything else we're going to continue doing ourselves.
Yes.
And because we're taking the Queen to Land Rover, I'm going to pretty it all up and get it all inspected and all nice so that I can trace their work. This is really important to me. So everything you see here will be spotless clean before they lay hands on it. Every bolt will be marked so I know if they tightened or opened it. I will check the caster and the camber on the vehicle because they work on the front suspension. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna log the faults before and after and the kilometers to see how much they drove it. And I'm gonna deliver it with 4 new tires. I do everything on this car. I even replaced some bolts which I lost during previous repairs.
You did?
Ordered them from Land Rover and put them back in instead of some cheesy Chinese bolt. Okay?
Oh my God.
I particularly ordered this bolt because I dropped the other one into the abyss.
Here's a spare part number.
Your knuckle broke because you didn't tighten that bolt.
Now you're gonna torque it. So what torque?
Enough.
So that torque wrench goes to like 100.
Yeah, but I only torquing it to 75. That's a little less than Land Rover specifies, but that's good enough, okay? So I also bought me these here new.
Why?
Because there's one missing here, there's one missing here.
So
and
what?
I don't like that if something is missing on the Queen.
But the Queen is now grounded for indefinite amount of time. Actually, I wanted to sell it. Oh, that's not gonna happen anytime soon.
Ah, see? Ah, because I treat my Queen really well.
Yeah, but I thought we were doing an oil change, not doing
Queen
some
on the lift.
cosmetic
See?
touch-ups
See
on a
that?
car
Look at
that is
that.
grounded.
Isn't that satisfying? If you find parts missing, you fix it. And I can't drive it with a broken knuckle. This is the first ever filter check I'm doing on the Queen since I got it, okay? It got 160,000 kilometers now. I changed that oil at 154 and it's still running 5W dumbass. There we go. If you want to do a real precise filter check, you're gonna have to let the oil in the filter rinse down, okay? That takes some time. So what I'm doing actually is I'm drying this off, get some of that oil already out, and then I'm gonna set the filter aside for about an hour, because only then I can really see if there is a fine dust or not. How is that? It's 10 liters. There we go. So there is an annoying cage nut broken here. I got a new Land Rover one here. But this goes back in here and it's beautiful. Looks like the other side is still good. So all this oil rinsed down now from alone. And when I go through this now, there is less glare because the oil is basically gone. I changed the oil of the Queen 6,000 kilometers ago to 5W30, just like you're supposed to. And when I go through the filter now, there are not really chips there, but there are also not no chips, okay? So when I go here, for example, right here, I do see one. For me, this is now enough reason to put this filter in a box, write the kilometers on it, and write down 5W dumbass. And in the same amount of kilometers, I'm gonna check again after running 5W40, which I'm gonna fill now. 5W40 instead of 5W dumbass. The Queen gets 9.4 liters. DPF, which is equivalent to a CRC3. So I just gotta make note that this is no longer 5W dumbass. Queen's converted to 5W40. So the engine oil level is okay. I think this completes this. Yes.
Guess how much oil goes into that?
Well, everybody who drives the 4.4 liter V8 knows that.
No, only those who do the oil change themselves.
Yeah.
10 liters. It's
Actually,
like almost twice as much.
9.4 liters.
And this is not a Euro 6 engine, so we don't worry that much about oil dilution, like you should on your Discovery 4. So I only help you if I can do the work.
Oh.
I'm done just being the camera girl.
Okay, you can unload these tires for me.
Oh, I do that. I just get the top. You just can load them sideways and it fits.
Okay, are we done humiliating me?
Yeah, look at that.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, so Christian always cleans the rims.
Yeah, because the tire shops really do appreciate if you clean your rims before you give it to them, okay? Otherwise, they just stick their weights onto the dirt, okay? Clean it a little bit with a little tiny tissue, okay? And that's it.
Yes, and before there are going to be any comments, we're going to check the direction of rotation right now.
So I do not see one here, so turn it around.
Here it says inside.
Everybody can see it says here inside, okay? So if you see us now mounting these, you can't judge from the thread pattern in what direction they go. Inside is inside. So this tire can go on all four corners of a car, no matter if you drive on the left side or on the right side of the road. So that's the 275/40/22, and I bought premium German tires for a premium British car. I think that matches really well.
And a premium price, and that is why I will not get a gravel bike again.
Look at the size difference from this tire. Basically, less than a centimeter, less than half an inch, okay, is the height difference. That's also why this tire was not rubbing in here, okay? It had no issue. This is a 275, this is a 285, so there is almost no difference. But because we're in Germany, almost no difference is why you don't get, as a German, your TÜV inspection passed, okay? Only as a Romanian, a Polish, somebody from the Middle East and some other nations. They would not have a problem, okay? If they go to the TÜV, the guy goes like, geez, that's good enough for you guys, especially because you only got the papers here. Okay?
And that is not a criticism to those nations. We are just jealous.
And that's also not racism.
Yes.
I'm just telling the truth, okay? Yeah. It's that charisma these people have when they go to the TÜV inspection bringing their papers, yes. Okay? Germans don't have that. No. They don't have a sense of humor. How would they ever get their TÜV inspection unless every centimeter is perfect? Now, we took the tires off because we never take one of our Land Rovers to a tire shop. That's just our policy. We also did this before we had a lift, okay? Just if you want to use now an excuse and say, oh, I can't do that, I don't have a lift. We did this for years.
All you need is a check stand.
We put the car here on blocks. This should do it.
Oh, boy.
Because I don't want to have the kid who is working there over the summertime during his vacation lifting up my queen. That's just too much for me. And finally, I bit the bullet and I remembered I'm gonna get me 4 additional Land Rover nuts. And let me tell you, they are black chrome finished.
And one more reason why I don't get a gravel bike this year.
But you have to look at them. These are not painted, okay?
So guess how much they cost.
That's not important. Black chrome plated. That's what Land Rover calls it. This is not a paint finish, okay? I thought they are just cheaply black painted, okay? But no, this is called black chrome.
Oh my
and look at
God.
That. You cannot imagine how happy I was when I got that package.
He actually wanted to order 5. 26 euros a piece.
I paid 106 including shipping to get these 4 nuts.
Actually, they gave you back the shipping.
But this takes care of this lug nut issue, okay? Just think about the poor thief in Germany. And our thieves are pretty stupid, okay? They're not as smart as they were in the 80s when they were baby boomers and all young, okay? No, they're completely stupid today. They only know how to use their cell phone. They can't unmount tires using an app. All this doesn't work. So just for them, so that they don't get hurt and the car tumbles onto them, we're replacing these.
So I hope they don't check out our sticker here. Oh boy. Christian in his element, cleaning the green. So fall is just around the corner and I've got really pretty apples, but they are full of worms and I won't touch them.
I tell you what, if you go around the queen and you find a scratch, I give you $50.
Oh, I'm gonna find one.
There is no scratch.
So what does a scratch mean?
A scratch is defined as 5mm going through the first coat of paint.
Okay, so she doesn't have a scratch, but she's got that rock chip. But it has been fixed by the previous owner. No, there are no scratches except for the...
There is no except.
The mirror here, I think, has a little bit here.
This is where I glued it. That does not count as a scratch.
Yeah, before we bought it.
And there is no paint coat, so it's not going through the paint coat.
Okay, Christian, that is only because she never went to a Texas car wash.
I would rather die than putting her through a Texas car wash.
Mine one here has been there many times. Oh, I hope he knows about that one. So Christian says it even smells good.
When you open it, yeah? I got my queen all set for the workshop visit, and I marked all relevant suspension components here with red ink. This way I can see if they broke these bolts loose to do work, for example alignment, or if they didn't, okay? The bolts which are obviously to be opened, like the joints here directly on the knuckle or the brake caliper, I did not mark with red ink. I also marked the location of the rims on the hub because according to the Land Rover manual, you're supposed to do that and you're supposed to put a wheel back in its correct angular location. So not that I don't trust anyone, but the reason is I don't trust anyone. Here I got the upper control arm marked as well.
Christian's going into our Land Rover workshop, dropping off our queen here, and I'm here with a mall crawler. I brought my mountain bike and I will ride home. It's about 25 kilometers and now I can answer a couple of comments while I wait. So I'm probably not supposed to film, but he's covering up the seats and the steering wheel. And in she goes.
We just did the inspection and we looked at the obvious crack
and they're gonna take pictures and then they send them into Jaguar and Land Rover, and we'll see how that goes forward. So there she's waiting for me to drive me now to work. So the car is handed over. So that was a really interesting experience for me, okay? That's the first time ever where I took a Land Rover to a dealership. And I cannot imagine that some of you do that all the time, okay? This is the first and last time for me, I tell you. The waiting around, okay? The sweet talk. It's just not for me. I was in there for 1 hour and 10, okay? We took the car up on my demand, and then we did a handover where he looked around and looked at all the dings and nicks. He wouldn't have done that without me reminding him that I want a handover protocol. Going to a workshop would be for me enough of a reason not to drive a car I can't handle myself. That's the bottom line, okay? What a waste of time and effort, okay? It took 5 weeks to get this appointment just so that they tell me today they're gonna take pictures from the vehicle. Oh, great, okay? They did offer me coffee.
Oh, they did?
And of course they were polite and to their extent also professional, but not to my extent professional. To my extent, it would have been, well, we heard from Land Rover in Frankfurt that you got this problem and we got all the parts over here on the bench and you can pick up the car in 2 days. That would have been professional to my extent, to my expectation. I understand that this cannot be met in Germany, maybe in another country, but definitely not over here, okay? I live in the lazy ass country. In general, not, you know, concerning towards Land Rover. If there is cost occurring for me, I have no reason to have it fixed there. Then I pick the car back up on a trailer if they don't let me drive it anymore, which I assume. All I need is a castle for the queen and a pony. So I have to go to work now, and Vera rides the bike home for 26 kilometers and I keep the car here.
Yeah, you can keep the car here. Have a nice day.
So the plan is now that they document the damage on the vehicle, so the broken knuckles, and then they file the pictures together with a report with the manufacturer in the UK. And then they call me and tell me what the next step is. I have no clue how long this will take, if it takes a day or two, or if they wait until the response is back out of the UK and so on. So I gonna wait how this goes, and if it doesn't go by my liking, I gonna fix this myself. And is it working?
Oh, it's really warm.
Okay, so I can turn it off, okay? Yes. It's primed. We're gonna go on a short vacation into the Alps, yes. And we're just packing our stuff. Yeah, and I want to give you guys an update on the absolute latest and greatest what I got now from Land Rover. The last thing what happened was that they took their pictures and submitted them over to the UK for evaluation if this is now a recall or not. So obviously in the UK they got to decide now, well, how risky is this really? Do we want to fix this or do we want to leave it alone because the car has the steering wheel on the left-hand side and not on the right-hand side? So typically a decision like this is made based on a risk assessment. I'm not sure if you guys heard that term. If a user reports a safety problem with a product, the manufacturer needs to conduct a risk assessment on this particular case. If he doesn't do that, he does not comply with regulations, okay? They are different from country to country, but over here in Europe, this is regulated by CE. At one point, Land Rover learned about the breaking knuckles in the front. In whatever case, they had to take this case in and do a risk assessment. I'm pretty sure they have done this because they have regulations for this. The basic risk assessment decision-making chart is right here, okay? That's the most basic one. Most likely Land Rover has like a really complicated one, okay, with some German dude introducing it to them in a big presentation, and it's all complicated.
The description of performing a tour in the security standard is high level. It describes the what rather than the how. There's a lot of room for interpretation.
And they all fell asleep and nobody really understood what the guy's talking about. But at the end of the day, they learned, okay, they have to fill out some chart. And before we go now into the case of the snapping knuckle, let's construct the case so you all understand what this is about. Let's assume the guys in India build a machine with a safety problem, okay? We can't really use the Chinese anymore as an example because even they understand by now what safety means, okay? So let's go over to India. They have no clue about that. Let's say they have a stamping press, okay, where they have like this device here and they insert pieces of sheet metal here, and this is like a huge press and it's going up and down on 2 posts, okay, like this. You guys understand how this works. And the dude is now sitting here and he has to take his hands and load something into this press. That's a pretty big safety hazard if he has no countermeasures to protect him, okay? And let's make it more difficult. The press is continuously cycling here with a crankshaft. So this motor is rotating and this goes up and down and no stopping, okay? Not hydraulic, they're not that far yet. They use some cheap ass motor, okay? Whole time long, and he needs to get his hand in here and load that sheet metal. And it's not that fast, it goes like this. First of all, they would have to find out, do we have a problem here? The people in India, okay? Because the Chinese, they would immediately build like a guarding around this by now. They learned this, and they would put a door on here with a pneumatic cylinder right here and a pneumatic cylinder right here. And then they let the door go up and down and they close this opening here. And the door goes in the reversal order of that press. So he can only stick his hands in when the press is up and vice versa. And they're going to make this here like a sharp edge, of course, you know, because they really haven't understood what it is all about. And then when he puts his hand in, he's going to get cut. Okay, let's not go into that detail. It's difficult. But anyhow, if someone would want to do a risk assessment on the press now, they would have to go through the risk level decision-making matrix, okay?
Okay.
Can you follow me? Because if you can't, then nobody can.
No, I follow you.
And this is again a basic one. It's not the one I showed you from that German dude where everybody fell asleep. In the first decision, you have to decide about the severity of the injury. We do that regularly in the company I'm working for because I am working in a machine tool company. So we sit together in a conference room and then we go like, okay, on this press, how is the severity of the injury when he pinches his hands? And you always got a guy in the meeting who goes like, that just hurts a little bit, that's no big deal. But then you got the other guy, okay, who goes like, no, it's going to cut his hand off and he's going to be disabled for the rest of his life. That's the little decision you have to make in a team. How is the severity of the injury? And it can be minor, moderate, or serious in a basic matrix. This can be much more complex. And if you stick your hand into the hydraulic press and you're not paying attention, I think it qualifies as serious, at least over here in Europe. I don't know how in India they would go here, because maybe they go like, well, he got a second hand.
Oh my God.
Over here, it's serious, okay? So we're down here in this branch, and you can already see if it's serious, and that's equivalent to my queen driving with 200 on the Autobahn, like I showed you guys in that video clip where I picked up that engine, and then the knuckle breaks, and I kind of launch off the Autobahn. That's serious. So you can see immediately we're not in the risk level
negligible.
Okay, I know it. We're not in the risk level negligible. We're not in the risk level. Okay, this is hard for a German, okay? I'm gonna have Google speak it for me. We're not low, we're not medium. We're immediately down here in high and very high. And no matter what we do, serious means high risk. So you don't really have to continue on with the other matrix items if you're already down here. You gotta do something. If the vehicle leaves the road and somebody can die, risk level is high. But let's assume they also got in their team some dude sitting there like in our team who always says like, oh, well, what's the problem? He got a second hand, okay? So maybe that guy goes like, well, okay, but usually they don't drive 200. They only drive like 25 going over to the mall, and the risk level is only moderate. Then you have the potential of reaching a risk level of medium, where you may not have to recall all your vehicles, because when you're down here in high, you will recall them. But then you have the exposure to hazard, and you got to make that decision. The exposure to hazard, now let me think off camera for a moment, glue this down here so I don't have to hold it next. And in the exposure of the hazard, in regard to our press, We got to think about, is this guy exposed to this hazard? And the answer is yes, because he's got to stick his hand in there to get the workpiece into the press. And he's got to do that frequently. And he's got to do that, otherwise his boss is going to kick his ass. In terms of the Queen, well, you kind of sit inside when you drive, okay? So yes, you are exposed to the hazard. If the knuckle breaks, your car launches off the Autobahn, you definitely are exposed. Can you follow me?
Yes.
We are in the branch, exposure to the hazard is high. So even if we go moderate, we're already in this branch and we probably end up in the high field and we have to recall the vehicle. But there's also a branch going up to medium still, okay? So let's see if we can make that branch, because there is always the guy in the meeting, like I said, okay? He's trying to keep that risk level low because he's probably an accountant. He knows everybody's going to go belly up.
It's a guy not sure.
The next decision they got to make, how is the avoidance of the hazard? Can you avoid the problem? Do you see the problem coming, okay? And is this likely? You can see it coming, not likely, and not possible, okay? So we think about our Indian dude working on that press again, and he sticks his hand in. Well, he actually does see that press coming, okay? So you can say, well, the avoidance, yes, it's very likely that he can avoid this press ram coming down. So in case of the press, the injury is, okay, maybe he's only cutting off his finger, okay, the exposure is high, but it's likely that he sees the press coming. So he can get away with a medium risk and they don't have to put any safeguarding on there. And the primary reason is because they're in India. If they would be in China, that wouldn't work anymore. In terms of our L405, what's the avoidance of the hazard when your knuckle breaks and you go in 200 on the Autobahn like I did?
0.
It's 0, okay? It's gonna go snap and launch. There is nothing you can do. You cannot steer. You cannot quickly drive on the side of the road like when your engine stalls. It's definitely not possible, which lets us end up in this high risk area, okay? If we think about now that the severity of the injury is actually serious and the exposure to the hazard is high, and you can't avoid it, it's not possible, we have even a very high risk according to this flow chart.
At least here in Germany, it's a very high risk and it's not possible to avoid because Land Rover Germany does not know about it, did not know about it until a couple of weeks ago. Land Rover UK does know about it. You could avoid that hazard in the UK. But here in Germany, you end up in the blue field.
You're basically right here, okay?
Oh, you're on vacation, dude.
Oh, this is Land Rover.
Oh my God.
Film.
Yes.
Hier ist Mut, guten Tag.
Da rechnen wir damit eigentlich, dass es dann wahrscheinlich in der nächsten Woche eintrifft, sodass wir da auch fertigstellen können.
Wow, das ist wirklich sehr schön.
Gehen wir mal von dem Positiven aus, dass es dann eintrifft und dass man dann vielleicht nächste Woche auch fertig bekommen kann.
Ja, das ist super. Dann danke für den Anruf und noch einen schönen Tag, ja?
Gerne und ich wünsche einen schönen Feiertag mal.
Ebenfalls. Tschüss. Now that was
Oh
a
my
coincidence.
God, what a coincidence.
We're gonna get into this message in a moment, okay? All of you know now what my opinion is about the risk assessment and that there is absolutely no chance for Land Rover to avoid a recall if this is reported to the Department of Transportation, the Kraftfahrtbundesamt over here in Germany. The Kraftfahrtbundesamt will ask Land Rover for a risk assessment and say, hey, we got this case here, what do you say about it? And then they can come back and say, well, oh, this guy is all stupid and he drove it with the wrong tires on it and so on. They got to present a plausible risk assessment and that will be checked by engineers. And if then the Kraftfahrtbundesamt people are so stupid that they don't recognize that there is a pattern and that there are recalls issued all over the world already, then I have no words, okay? Then it's their fault that you guys in Germany do not get your knuckles replaced and your vehicle made safe.
My box, it's getting rained on and
Ooh,
I have to
I
put
have
my
to close
sleeping
that.
bag in there.
Now where we got straightened out that the risk assessment basically says there needs to be a recall done, I'm gonna give you the latest and greatest news from Land Rover, okay? Now we did drop off the vehicle and they did their inspection, as you saw in this video. Okay. So it took exactly 1 week and 2 days until I got a hold of them again and I found out what the status is. They basically said they sent their paperwork to the UK. Land Rover in the UK evaluated the case and they sent back the technical countermeasures to fix the vehicle, okay? So replacing the knuckles or whatever. Technical information. They did not make the decision if this is now a recall or not. That's apparently not up to them. So when the workshop received that information, they contacted Land Rover Germany customer service and they said, well, we got this customer with a broken knuckle. Here's what we need to do. Will you cover the cost of this repair? And will you give us clearance to do so? And then Land Rover in Germany basically said, yes, we're going to cover the cost in this case. Go ahead, order the material and fix that vehicle for this customer. So that was already incredible news for me because we're going to move forward. And just now, the service manager called us and told me they have the parts on order. They checked now availability and the system says all parts are on stock and they will arrive at Land Rover beginning of next week. And they're going to fix the vehicle, so I may get it back next week, probably by end of next week, if it works with the parts. And the cost will be completely borne by Land Rover. So for us, this is extremely good news, which would mean the whole effort would have taken us about 7 to 8 weeks. That's very long. It's the first case reported in Germany, and I laid down the brickwork for everybody else to get that fixed as well.
For all the people worldwide, I know from guys in Belgium and Luxembourg, you have to basically do the groundwork too. You have to contact your Department of Transportation or whatever you call it, because what Christian did in Germany does not apply automatically to any other country.
Especially if your steering wheel is on the left-hand side, okay? I was successful with my claim. All I got to do now is wait for spare parts and wait for the workshop to fix it. That does not solve the problem for many of you guys. And again, like Vera said, you're gonna have to take the ball in your own hands and do something. All I can do is I can show you in German language the wording I filed with the Kraftfahrtbundesamt for our vehicle in the video description. Basically, that is a website where you can upload your safety case and it asks you a couple of questions and I can write down in the comments exactly what my wording was about my claim. If you are in the US or in any other country, you have the same thing. I found websites from many different countries like Australia, from the United States and so on, where you can upload your safety claim. And if you basically reinforce that with pictures and reports and other cases which you collect in the internet, you're gonna have a serious case. And when you do that, the Department of Transportation in your country will follow up on this. This is the law, okay? They have to do that. They can't say, well, okay, I kind of don't like the spelling errors the guy does in his mail. We're not going to follow up on it. They will. They will send paperwork over to Land Rover and ask them, hey, what about this case? And if it is only one case, then Land Rover can say, well, the exposure to the hazard is low in their risk assessment, and they get away with it. But if there are many cases reported to the Kraftfahrtbundesamt or to your Department of Transportation Safety Department, the exposure of the hazard goes to high, okay? Because it's then apparent that many vehicles, if not all, out of that build year are carrying that hazard. That's how this works. So if you just lean back and write them an email, you're not going to get anywhere.
This Knuckle case also applies to the new Discovery and also, I think, early new Defenders.
And over many, many build years, okay? So file your case. If you don't do that, you're not going to have any success. So that's it for this episode. You got an update about our vehicle. And at this point, we want to thank our Patreons a lot for their support. And
we'll see you next Sunday.
Very well.